Meccano, part number 34B. You could box clever with a Meccano box spanner. No, the jokes won't get any better. In fact, this is probably the high water mark. Hi. If you want even more Meccano goodness, why don't you check out my Patreon channel? And please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. I post updates in the community section, not only for this week's Patreon build, but also for what I'm currently working on. Thank you, and back to the build. Hi and welcome back. This week's build is for Hoist crane. When I first saw this build as an adult, my mind first said, that's a gantry crane. Oh come on, Meccano. I know it's a limited kit, but you could have at least named it correctly. So I stand here corrected, and have learnt a bit about the difference. This journey of knowledge has taken me through 2,000 years of history, across 3 continents, war, a door lock company, and a number of amazing engineers, inventors, and accountancy, as in the people who do lots of maths. What is a hoist? A hoist is a type of crane that dates back thousands of years. Hoist also refers to the lifting action of any crane. What makes this crane different is that it's normally left in place. Hoists normally load bear with chain or wire rope or cable. A lot of us will encounter a hoist regularly. Most lifts or elevators use a hoist as a method of power to raise or lower the car. In fact, it's probably one of the oldest cranes in existence. We know the Romans had them, as the evidence shows cranes with multiple block and tackle, as described by Hero of Alexandria, a Greek mathematician and engineer around 2,000 years ago. An inventor who, amongst his many inventions, gave us the first vending machine, published works on steam turbines, and the differential drive. For many years we had the basic form of block and tackle, where force is applied at one end of a rope to lift an object that is hung from a pulley. These are called dumb pulleys. The more pulleys you have, the easier it is to lift, but the more rope you need. On land, this was done by animals for heavy objects. At sea, this was done by sailors. Either way, if you let the tension go, gravity takes over, and the object is moving downwards, fast. We then had the invention of the windlass by Archimedes, the use of which was well known, and had travelled from the Mediterranean to China. In 1859, Thomas Weston, an English-born accountant, patented a new improved pulley. Mr. Weston moved to Birmingham, and by 1861 he was lodging in a boarding house with Edward and George Tangy, both of whom are engineers from Cornwall. The Tangy brothers own a company that builds, amongst other things, hydraulic jacks. They also designed the hydraulic system that controls the funicular railway at Southcliffe in Scarborough, as well as building the hydraulic jacks used in the launching of Brunel's ship, the SS Great Eastern. At this point the differential pulley appears, with the added invention of the Tangy brothers for disengaging the chain from the pulley of Weston's differential pulley. In the same year, they started the manufacture of the pulley after acquiring the patent. The differential pulley was nothing new. It had been invented nearly 2,000 years before. In fact, Hero of Alexandria discusses the use of them. The British and French had come across the pulleys in China in the Opium Wars of the 19th century. The Chinese pulley, as it becomes to be known, is one length of rope attached to 2 drums of different sizes on the same axis. The different sizes of the drums give what is called a mechanical advantage when lifting. The larger drum will wind up more rope than the smaller drum pays out when lifting. So while lifting a load is very slow, and the action requires many turns of the handle, what you lose in speed is more than made up by gains of power. So even the smallest person should be able to lift heavy loads. The British, French and Russian troops had observed these differential pulleys in action in fighting in China during the Opium Wars, with China trying to stop the drug trade which had been made illegal some time before, while Allied forces were trying to support the smugglers to ship the drug to both Europe and America. Troops from the East Indian Company marvelled at the speed and ease with which Chinese fortresses could raise and lower their drawbridges when under attack or counter-attacking. Many engineering firms had attempted to do what was achieved by Mr. Weston. The engineering problem to overcome was how to disengage the chain from the differential pulley. Chain was the preferred lifting material, while fabric rope was good for ships and light loads. Wire rope was only just on the market, having been invented by Wilhelm Albert in Germany in 1834. The chain would do one of two things: either A, not lock, so what you lifted was giving in to the powers of gravity and going back down, or B, jam solid, and nothing was moving in either direction. The Tangy brothers invented a pitch chain. If you want an example of one, look at a bike chain. They were challenged by an ironmonger that the pulley had already been in use for over 30 years, and therefore Weston's patent was null and void. But the judge ruled in favour, as the engaging mechanism was significantly different from the example presented as evidence, winning a medal for original application, practical utility and success in 1862 at the International Exhibition in London for his inventions. Mr. Weston goes on to win a medal for original application, practical utility and success in 1862 at the International Exhibition in London for his inventions. In 1876, the Yale Lock Company purchased the rights to the patent and went on to manufacture Hoist using Weston's principles. With the invention and mass production of the automobile, a lightweight, very reliable crane was needed in garages to lift out engines and generally support the work of the mechanic. With chains seeming to be used up to around the 3-ton load, the lightweight vehicles of the early part of the 20th century fitted its need perfectly. With the perfected ability to manufacture I-beams from steel, the hoist was attached to a device called a trolley. This allowed movement from right to left, and then later the ability to traverse front to back was added. When in my late 20s my father-in-law, sick of me paying mechanics for work, decided that I needed a bit of proper teaching, I was introduced to a British steel differential pulley block from Concert Iron Company. At the time I was fascinated by how it worked, but I digress. In 1880, Alton J. Shaw, Milwaukee, designed a crane using 3 electric motors, one to power the lift gear, one to power right to left movement, and one to power the travel front to rear. He was not the first to marry the use of electric motors and cranes. The Germans did it first. But very annoying at the time of writing this script, I cannot find the article that I read a number of days ago telling me the history. I can hear my mother saying, "Write it down in a book." But mother, we don't use books anymore. It's all done on the internet. I hate it when she's right. There will be a told you so moment later. So, where was I? Oh yes, electric motors, cranes and hoists. In the US, the newly formed Shaw and Yale crane companies carved strong niches in the market and even in the world markets. challenging the British and the Germans in the engineering and manufacturing of cranes. With the innovations of the following years, saw Yale's hoists lift faster, safer and more cheaply, while Shaw's cranes and hoists were installed in their thousands in mills, factories, mines and loading facilities all over the US. In the early 1930s, the Shaw Electric Crane Company was merged with the Alfred E. Box Crane and Hoist Company to form the Shaw Box Crane and Hoist Company. Within a couple of years they produced the Budget, a small electric chain hoist, followed shortly afterwards by a lever-operated variant called the Tugget. Both sold well the world over. Lightweight, they appeared in small workshops everywhere and are still produced to this day. During World War II, the Yale and Shaw Box companies were one of the driving forces that helped win the war. Without the ability to move items from clothing to warships, tanks to the iconic P-51, the powerhouse of the US would never have been able to stand alongside her allies. By the late 1990s, Yale and Shaw Box merged to become one company, Yale Lift Tech, still manufacturing hoists in the small town of Muskegon in Michigan. Over 150 years of innovation and engineering. Without the ideas at the end of the 19th century, we would never have seen the explosion of industry at the beginning of the 20th century's drive for technology. It is made on the back of these inventions. Married with Wilhelm Albert's wire rope, the world expands in all directions. From mining to climbing to the stars. The simple and humble pulley, designed over 2,000 years before, improved by inventors, dreamers and engineers, lifted and carried us forward. I wonder if Thomas Weston, being an accountant, liked to play with numbers as much as my brother does. He too is an accountant. And the joy that mathematical problems, like the calculation of mechanical advantage, gives him a great moment of satisfaction. Was that the same for Thomas Weston? Was the beginning of the differential pulley a piece of paper, a pencil, and a moment of thought and reflection? The pure logic of maths solving a problem.